Hello my friends, HM here. In this video we are going to make quince jam and also quince paste. What is quince? I have it down here on my cutting board and these are two examples of these fruits. It's a kind of apple fruit, but it's just 10 times the taste of apple. You can also get them as quince pear. There are two kinds. My aunt has two big trees that grows this stuff, so I get some of these from her every year and then I start doing it. So you can see, what is quince jam? How does that look like? Well, it looks like this, and I'm going to have a little bit of vanilla in it and also some lemon yeast. But otherwise it's just sugar and the meat from these fruit. And here I have a little example on a piece of rye bread with clarified butter, which have a light caramelized taste to it, and it just tastes heavenly good, and that's why you should try it out at home. It can be a little difficult to find where to buy these quince fruits, but it's definitely worth the hunt if you can find them. And it's not the only thing. We are going to make a quince jam. That's super easy to do. It's a little more tricky to make this, which is quince pasta, which is heavenly good as well, and also a Christmas treat. But I'll come to that later in my video. But anyway, let's get to it. Over here I have already started. What I do is I take a piece like this and then I cut it basically on one end and the other end. And this I just cut in some smaller pieces. I'm going to use it for making quince juice, which is this, and it tastes heavenly good really. And it's just a lot of water that I have boiled together with the kernels and the skin that I peel off these quince, and I throw that in here, and all the good fresh meat I put that over in another pot that I will process into quince pasta. Now it has just sitting here for a few minutes, and you know, it came from this white color and now it has been red. So I think I have to hurry up and get this done, because otherwise it really fast oxidizes, and I don't want that to happen. So let's hurry up and get this done. I'll just show you for one how this is done here. First I peel it off with a potato peeler, and as I said, it just goes down in this pot here where we'll make juice, quince juice of it. Then I cut through here, and then it's much harder than apple. It's like almost stone hard. Apple is super soft. So I'm actually using a lot of power just to get through this. I just want you to see it so you don't get surprised when you do this yourself. But it's worth all the effort, I can guarantee you of that. It's super delicious. So we have these good parts over here, doing the same thing with these. And here I'm just cutting them up a little more so the taste have a bigger surface. Now this one, yeah, why not? Put it over right away. And I'll put the heat on this one, and then I'll put some sugar in it. And you need more sugar than you think, because it's pretty sour, this quince. This is for my juice. That's what will produce this. Also, it will jelly up a little bit, so it's a little bit jelly like, and if it's too jelly, put some more water in it so you can easily dissolve it with more water, because it's a concentrated juice that you have to thin up with 2 parts water and 1 part of this juice. But this one, the longer it cooks, the better. I'm also going to peel these two here, and the skin and the kernel from them are also going to be thrown up in this pot here. But the meat from these two I will make into more of this jam here. So it has to be treated in a separate pot and done a little bit differently. But it's actually the easiest part to make this jam. The quince pasta is more difficult. Back to this. This will be pasta, so I will blend it, and I don't care really too much about how nice and neat these individual pieces look like. Whereas with this jam, I like there to be some visible pieces in the jam. I think that makes for the most pretty jam and delicious jam somehow, that you can see that there are some pieces left in it, some structure. Okay, I think we are there. And look at that, it has become completely red compared to these newly cut pieces. Quite a lot of color shift. Now I'll have to measure it. I need to figure out how much sugar to put in this, and the recipe says 3/4 of sugar compared to how much quince you have in. So I'll measure it on my scale to figure out how much sugar we should put in it. So let's do that. And that one should be set to 0. So this is 500 grams. That means I need almost 500 grams of sugar. Let's give it 400 grams. That means 400 to 500, that's 900. That's 900. Almost on the spot. I should have... Now I have to get it back into my boiling pot. Should probably have put my sugar in there. And I hadn't greased this. Okay, and I'll put a little bit of water in here to start the boiling of this. Of course, there will also be water in the quince. I'll put it over here. And I'll put a lid on it. And okay, now I think I'll clean the kitchen up and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm back here. I wanted to show you something. I went on to cut these 2 other ones here I have up. And this one is fine. It's white on the inside. But this one, I want to show you, if it's brown on the inside, it's actually beginning to rot. And it's because I have been too late with this. Normally they're ripe for being picked by their trees in late October. And now we have the 15th of December here today. I'm recording this video. It's way too late. It would have been perfect if I'd done it, early November or something. That would be perfect. It had been sitting there in my refrigerator ever since. And now it was beginning to smell a lot like apple. And when that stuff happens, then you just have to get it done. Because otherwise they'll rot in a matter of a week or something. But this one has already started it a little bit. So you might be able to eat it. But I'm not going to risk it and mix it up with this one. Which is definitely good as it should be. So I'll just say, okay, this was wasted. I waited too long with that one. And I wanted to tell you that error because you're probably also going to make the same error. So that means with this one, I can only make 1 more glass of this. That's a pity. I would have loved to have a little bit more. And it's really my own fault. My aunt has a massive tree and I could have gotten like 100 of them, far more than I can eat in a whole year. And this is actually not from my aunt's tree either. It's from one of my uncles who has another garden with another tree. And they came from that this year. But okay, we do the same thing here. And I think I'm going to hurry up. So we are making 3 different things. We are making juice, quince paste, and also quince jam. And this one, that will be my jam. Now I care about how these pieces will look like because I want them to be part of the jam. So being a little more carefully cutting them in the size I want them. Over here it goes. I want this result there because that was perfect. And there's a lot of pectin in this. That is a substance that can smooth out the jam. I'm still going to use some gelatine. I'm going to use one of these gelatine things. And by the way, now that we are at it, it has to be put in water. I'm not going to need that in any way for this over here. It will have plenty of this gelatine in it. But this one, because I'm not boiling it out, I want to make a jam out of it. I'm not boiling it so long that all this gelatine get out of the cells of this one. Now I have to measure how much sugar I have to put in it. Well, let's do it right this time. First to 0. And then we measure it 230. I will give it 200 grams of sugar. So that's 438. And then a little bit of water. And I'll put it on this. And over here we can see there's a lot of moist in it now. Let me put it over here. Now with this one it has to be blended. You can use an ordinary blender, where you put the whole thing into a blender, but I'm using this. It's much easier. It's the only blender you need. You should also buy this one, Bamix of Switzerland. It's just super nice and also doesn't make a lot of noise. But I have to blend this as much as possible. You can see it's very noise free and it's very powerful. It doesn't sound like it's powerful, of course, doesn't make a lot of noise, but that's just because it's very well insulated. So now you can see it becomes a soup. You need to blend it because we need this pectin to come out. That will make this stuff here hard in the end. I don't worry about the juice here. It can never go wrong. You don't have to look at it. This one you have to make care it doesn't boil too much, and also with this one. But I have no heat on it right now, so nothing can really happen. And also, I said I wanted to put some lemon yeast in it. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. I'm just going to have these two here and nothing more. It's a very, very powerful spice, so you can easily overdo it. So I'm just going to chuck this up, finally. But I do think it tastes a little bit better, my quince jam here, if it has a little bit of this lemon yeast in it. I can put that in right now. Okay, but here what should happen is that also a lot of moisture should get out of this quince and a soup will form. It's happening now that it's melting this sugar and extracting a lot of water out of it. You know, I think I'm going to take my vanilla, and here I'm using, I know I showed you I had these vanilla here, but I'm not using that. I'm putting my vanilla normally in vodka, cutting them in half and then split them open, and then I put them in vodka. It's a great way to store vanilla pieces and also to get a whole lot more taste out of them. Then I use this one here to pick one of them up. I've used some of them and then they go down again. Let me see. I need one just with the corn. This one is full of corn and I just need a half of vanilla here. Okay, so here it goes. Now it's spiced up. It has everything it needs. And I just put this vanilla stuff back down here because what this vodka will become, it will become vanilla essence that I can then also use. It's a really smart way, and it's the same thing I've done with this lemon yeast. It's also just lemon yeast in vodka. And the longer it sits there, the better. Both this vanilla and this lemon yeast has been sitting there for a whole year. But okay, I got all my ingredients here. Now all I have to take care of is not to overboil it. What I like to do is to give it about 10 minutes until it looks like this. All the water has been extracted out, and then stop the boiling. That's what I'm going to do now. And then I'll put a lid on and just let it sit for half an hour for this sugar to get into the very sour quince fruit. It has to be sweetened. And then I'll heat it up and give it another 10 more minutes, and then it should be done. Then this jam is done. But this one over here, I'm going to blend it even more. I want to be completely sure that everything has been blended. It's a little, I wouldn't call it stressing, but you have to, when you make several things at the same time, you have to be sure, okay, there are actually 3 things I'm making at the same time now. And I need to be sure I'm not doing a mistake here. It's not stressing. As I've said in some of my other videos, I consider cooking as meditation. It really is. It's the opposite of stressful. It's a very good reason for doing it. The reason I'm blending in this so much is that I want to break down the cell membrane so this pectin is getting out, because this one has to be completely stiff, and then you can cut it up and then have some small pieces of it as a Christmas treat. It's super delicious. It's some of the best candy I know. Okay, I'm back. Now I have blended this pot here quite a lot, and I'm sure it's blended enough, but I want to transfer it to my wok here for one reason, and that is that now I don't need to blend it anymore, and this wok will have a bigger surface area, and it's also bigger, so the probability of this boiling up and splashing all over my kitchen is far less, because it's quite greasy, this stuff here. It really is. And it also gets up to a very high temperature. It will be like a lava that is bubbling up, but you will see it in a minute when I turn the heat on here. But it'll have a bigger surface area, and that means it will evaporate faster, and that means we get to the point where it's ready faster. Why didn't I use my wok from the start? It's because the wok is not as good to blend this thing in. I'd rather have a small diameter pot like this where I can blend it more easily. And also another thing to watch out for here, it can easily burn at the bottom. Although it might look good at the top, here on the bottom it can get burnt, and then you will ruin it. So this quince paste is a lot harder to make than quince juice and quince jam. A lot harder. Many more things can go wrong when you make quince paste. But it also tastes the most wonderful, so it's so much worth it to go through this. Okay, I'll just put this in water over here, and then I'll put the heat on here. Not a lot, just low heat. But to get this up to speed, I'll give it high heat first. And then when I see the first bubbles, I'm going to turn down the heat to the lowest. But you can already see here that it's the right pot. You can see all the vapor that's coming off here, so it will be much faster. So this one has been boiling and it's super easy. That's the easiest part of it. And also, I'm sure this one hasn't got enough sugar. You should go for a 50% sugar concentration in the juice you get out of this. You can just taste it. How does it taste? If it's sour, and I'm sure it will be super sour right now. Actually, it's not that sour, but that's because it hasn't boiled that long. Now I'm turning it down over here. It's boiling. And it's important that you stir around because, as I said, it could get burned from the bottom. And that's why you don't want this to take forever. That's a waste of your time. So you just want to put it up in the largest diameter pan that you have and then do it from there. This wok is ideal for this, I think, because it's not so deep, so the moisture can easily be blown away here. And by the way, if you have wondered why have I not turned on my blower here, I have turned it off because it makes a lot of noise and will be picked up in the microphone. It will screw up the video recording, so I'm not doing it. But every time I turn off the camera, I'm putting this up at the highest speed and get all the moisture out of my kitchen and blown out of my window there. This is a rented apartment. It was not a problem with my landlord. They said I could just drill a hole in the wall and make a professional exhaust, but I just had to call the municipality and get the permits. And I did that, and it was like 1,000 pages. I was not allowed to drill a hole in the wall. That was a change of the building. In fact, it should be all the way with a chimney up to the roof, and that was impossible. So I made an improvised thing here where I just lead the thing through a plastic tube I set up myself and blow it out of the window. That is fully legal, no problem there. Many of my neighbors have not done that. They have a filter that kind of goes through a filter, but that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Has to be blown out. But okay, this is evaporating, and we just keep doing this until it becomes more thick and also changes the color. It will get darker, but this color here is too much. Also, I haven't put any vanilla or anything in here, only sugar, that's it. And that should be enough. Sugar and water and quince meat that is blended, that's all you need here. Now I put power on it, can you see? And sometimes it splashes up. And this is pretty hot stuff, and it's also sticky, so it will create some nasty burns. I'm going to turn it down again, because I don't want to risk it. But I'm not afraid of my kitchen being littered with splashes from this, because this pot is so big, it will all fall back into the pot. Okay, this one over here, I think about 20-25 minutes has passed, and it has kind of sucked up all the sugar inside this thing, so it's time to finish this marmalade or jam. But now I'm putting some power on this one here and finishing this off. As you can see, this one is getting smaller and smaller, this clump here, and we are getting closer and closer to the end result. And also a little trick I'm beginning to use is I take a spoon, because it can be hard to see when is this done. It feels like it's very soft and not done at all down here in the pot, but it deceives you a little bit because it's only because it's so hot that the sugar is kind of melted and stuff, and that's why it's a lot more floating than it really is when it attaches room temperature. So take a little spoon out of the pot, let it sit here and let it go to room temperature to figure out if it stiffens, and it has to stiffen up really a lot. Still has to be, so you can bite in it. But I will show you at the end of the video how it will be when it's fully cooled. And there's another thing we have to remember here with this one. We have to remember, of course, over here we have this jelly that is put in water, just one sheet. And then you squeeze out the water. And then it basically you put it in here and it will melt into it. And it will stiffen the whole thing like you have in a jam. But as I said, there's also a lot of pectin by itself in this quince, a lot more than in other kinds of fruits. And you can see it over here, how much there is in it. And that's because we blended it and crushed all the cell membranes. Let's stir it around so it doesn't burn. But it's almost there. 5-10 minutes more and then it's done. What does that one say? 30 degrees. I think it's done. Because this was taken out several minutes ago. I turn the heat off now, and then I take a sample, and then I'll let that cool down, and then I'll see if it's done. That's a good idea. And if it is stiff enough, then I'll heat it up again to 100 degrees, and then I'll transfer it to my final jars. I've made a video about it, about how you take basically a supermarket glass, and how you can rip off labels of these supermarket glasses and then reuse the supermarket glasses for all kind of other things, like storing your jam and whatever product you are making here in your home kitchen. Because the thing is, if you make a lot or anything in your home kitchen, then you save a lot of time and you also save money, but then you need a lot of containers to store it in. And this one is actually 2 years old, and I haven't put any preservation chemicals in it or anything. What I do to preserve it is heat. So I make really sure that it's heated to 100 degrees Celsius before I put it into these jams. Then it will kill all the microbes that are in it, even in the lid. And that's how they can stay great for that long without getting bad. Heat is a good way to get rid of germs. Everything, viruses, bacteria, yeast, everything, especially at 100 degrees. But this one is looking good. I also want some of the water boiled off here. And here the end product should be this, like this. Let me taste this, or let me first take this temperature. No, it's too hot. 60 degrees Celsius, 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, we are back. I decided to put the heat on here again because it's not yet ready. And I found out about that from this one here. You can see I'm trying to show you how stiff it is. It's not stiff enough. It has to be more stiff than this. But of course it tastes fantastic. And then I also think I have found a little bit better technique, kind of spraying it all over here, the pan, to increase the surface area, and then scraping it up from the bottom. And then repeating this, try to scrape it all over. And this is why it's important to have a large good pan like this, because otherwise it can take a very long time. Like you can stand here for 2 hours and try to get this moisture out. I already think I've spent an hour. I most definitely have. But I'm also very close now. I don't think I have to spend much more time. And this one over here has boiled for like 10 minutes. It's getting there very soon now. Just want it to be a little... It's getting a little bit reddish. And that's what I'm looking for. And then I'll take it off the heat and fill it directly into some glasses I have while it's still hot, as we talked about. That's a good way to sterilize stuff. This one needs to get... I haven't looked at it at all, but that one needs to get a lot of water in it. Good that I saw that. Okay, don't let this burn. Right now it's almost getting there at all 3 places. Not this one. This one can do a lot more. But you can see it's getting the color. Even if I put all that water in it, it's getting the color. But it needs to get to this dark red. And that's a funny thing. Isn't it funny that it can change that color that much? Just keep boiling and it gets darker and darker. And this reddish, dark purple. But I can feel the stuff that's on the side here that has cooled a little bit is definitely a lot stiffer, which is a good thing. Let me take another test. I have to look at all 3 things at the same time. But the easy thing is you can kind of look at the color and then know when it's finished. This one has to get much darker. This one has to get just a little bit darker, and then it's finished. Okay, now I took this off the heat because I could see that this one has the color I'm looking for. Same color as over here. So it's time. And it's time to transfer it to its permanent glasses here. And I think I'm going to use a small glass first. I'm going to spill a little bit on the sides. It can't be any different. And then this one. Maybe I should have transferred it to a smaller pot. Then it would have been easier to get this down without greasing my glasses. 2 glasses of this jam. We can put that over here for final production. What about all this good tasty thing here? You know what? I think we are going to exploit all the juices in this. Let's get that done and boil all these nice flavors off, and then we'll come back on. So the jam is done. You just saw it. And this one is almost ready. And this one here is not quite ready, but it will be. We should take another sample of this. See if it's hard enough. I think it is. So it's a lot stiffer than it is here. And you can see it's I think it's done. It's like almost a lump of dough. It is done. Can I touch it? Yeah. And I'm just putting it down here like a pasta, as it's supposed to be. I have to close it so that the lid also get this heat treatment. Now I have closed it, and now I have to clean this up. I'll try to do it a little more controlled. I'll use a spoon because I don't think it was the right tool I used. Yeah, now it's much more controlled. Still super hot. It's like 100 degrees, so maybe before it starts to get that hot, I should, and then I can also squeeze it down. This is much better. Should have done that with the first glass, but that's why you watch YouTube. You can learn from the mistakes of these YouTubers. Of course, I don't have to show you, but I think I will show you. I'm filling the glass with a teaspoon. That's how to do it, and it's definitely stiff enough. I can feel it. And then we shot it, and it's like 100 degrees here, so let's put that on the lid over here. But all that came out of these 3 quince apples was actually these small glasses here. So a lot of water has evaporated, and then we also put all that sugar in it. Okay, I'm back again. Now I finally got my glasses here done. 2.5 glasses out of these 3 quince. And I got 1 glass here of marmalade and half a glass here of marmalade from the other quince I had. And then I have this pot here, which is greasy with all this stuff. And I found out that I wanted to take all the good taste from that and basically put this one up here to suck that up. That's my juice. And also at the same time clean this pot here, because otherwise it's really hard to get off. And also I did the same thing with this thing here. Just put it down there, and then it became clean all by itself, and at the same time got all the flavors out into this juice here that we're not yet finished with making. It's kind of what you do with a sauce when you make some beef on a sauce, and then you get this brown stuff on the bottom of the pan, and then you put in some stock to release it and just to make the sauce extra good. Or you put in some cream, because what is down there is actually stock. But I just wanted to show you that. Then I'll be back when this juice here is ready. Okay, I'm back. What has happened is that we have filled these 3 glasses with quince pasta, and it has cooled down. It's still like 35 degrees Celsius, so it's not all the way down to the 19 degrees Celsius here in my kitchen. But I want to show you how it is. It's pretty hard. As you can see, I have to use power to get through it here. It's very hard actually to get up, and it is supposed to be hard. It's like caramel in consistency. It tastes so good. It's great, and it's just quince and water and sugar, nothing else. This, on the other hand, was supposed to be quince jam, like what I made yesterday, but it got boiled too much, and it's not jam anymore. It's something else, but it's very, very delicious. You can see it down here on this spoon where there's still something on it, and you can see I almost have to take this off. It's definitely not jam. That's not how jam is. But it's super delicious. So it's something else. I have no name for it. But I have actually seen that kind of thing happen before, because here also at Christmas time, sometimes I do some pineapples that I cut up in some pineapple pieces. Then I put sugar on it, and then in this sauté pan, I simply boil these pineapples with sugar until they caramelizes, and it basically gets to this with some pineapple pieces that are totally caramelized. And then I cool them down, and then I can take these pieces up, and then I've put them on baking paper, and I bake them further in the oven to take even further moist out of it, so they become this caramel. And then I can take them up from there and put some black chocolate on them, and then they are super delicious treats. Completely turn that pineapple into something super special. And I think the same thing here has happened for this quince. It has been turned into something super special. I could probably make some clumps of this, put black chocolate around it, and then I have something fantastic. So a new thing here invented. It almost has a color, this quince juice, but I think I'll give it half an hour more, and I'm not going to come back with a video where I'm going to show you how I take this and basically filter it in this Corolla here, and then when I filter it first through here, and then I use a more tightly masked sieve to filter it finally into its final container here. You know how to do that, so I don't have to show you. But what did I get out of it? Well, got this pasta out of it, which I was very pleased with, and then I got something out of it I didn't expect, but it tastes very good, so I'm not unhappy with it. I'll definitely get 2 glasses of quince juice when it's done. So I'm pretty happy about that result. But I think that was this video, and I'll finish here. I just have one thing to say, and that is that I wish you a fulfilling life in freedom and democracy. We need to think about freedom and democracy. It's not something that happens just by itself. We need to fight for it. Sometimes we need to fight a war for it. We even need to kill a lot of people for it, like we did under Second World War. We killed millions of bad Nazis. And I'm afraid the world is becoming a war place again. It already is in Israel and Ukraine. And I think hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Russian soldiers needs to be killed. Hamas terrorists needs to be killed by really large numbers before we can get a peaceful world back. The bad guys have gotten stronger, and we need to fight for freedom and democracy again. And it's done not by throwing roses, but by killing our enemy. So I wish you a life that is fulfilling and in freedom and democracy. Without freedom and democracy, it's pointless. So that's something I'm very much dedicated to say. I also talk about it on my other channel. I'll talk a lot more about it. But on this channel, we mainly make food. But anyway, goodbye, and thank you for viewing my video here to the end. Goodbye.